George Zimmerman's wife will not press charges against her estranged husband, and the reason why that she's not going to do that is because it turns out that they may not have enough evidence to actually prosecute him for domestic violence. Now, I should note that there is one thing that's been confirmed at this point. George Zimmerman did break her iPad in the middle of their scuffle. Apparently, he did so because Shellie Zimmerman was filming him as they were getting into their argument, and Shellie Zimmerman claims that that footage on the iPad would show exactly what George Zimmerman was doing while they were getting into their argument. So,
by the way, the police have that iPad in the several pieces that it is. They're trying to retrieve the video. They haven't yet.
Yes. Now, there has been some disagreement as to whether or not George Zimmerman had a gun at the time. I should note that Shellie Zimmerman has seemed to change her story a little bit. So I want to give you guys a few quotes from the police department. According to Steve Bracknell, who is the Lake Mary police chief, he says that domestic violence can't be invoked because she has changed her story and says she didn't see a firearm. Zach Hudson from the Lake Mary police department, a spokesperson with the department, says, "We didn't find a gun. We didn't find anything that indicated he had a gun on his person." I hate that phrase, by the way, gun on his person. Yeah. He didn't have a gun.
Yeah,
Leave it at that.
I know. He's trying to sound official as a spokesperson. Just bring it down for a second.
Right.
Look, this guy catches so many breaks from the cops, it's unbelievable. Because we're going to give you more evidence in a second. But Zach Hudson also said no one ever saw a gun. He said he has no gun on him, and we haven't found a gun. I think she assumed that he had one on his person. Okay, well, apparently that's not the case, because his now former lawyer, Mark O'Mara, was on CNN saying the exact opposite.
In fact, we have video of that, so let's take a quick look and we'll discuss.
Well, he acted appropriately. He never took the weapon out. And the only thing that he really did, which is what he told the police, was on the outside of his shirt, he made sure that the gun wasn't moving anywhere and didn't do anything because Mr. Dean was sort of coming at him. That can be seen in the video.
So he had the gun actually on his person, not in like the glove box of his car.
That's correct.
Also, Think Progress is reporting that CNN's Victor Blackwell reported that the police did not check the car because they didn't have a warrant and it wasn't part of the crime scene. So if that is in fact true and the police didn't search the car, then how are you going to confirm that he did not have a gun? I mean, they might have searched him and maybe they didn't find a gun on his person, but I find it very questionable that Mark O'Mara, his attorney, at this point now his former attorney, is claiming that, yeah, he did have a gun, but he didn't do anything inappropriate with it.
And the person that he mentioned there was Shellie Zimmerman's dad, George Zimmerman's father-in-law, which Shellie Zimmerman on the 911 call says that George Zimmerman punched him in the face. Mm-hmm. They say, well, there wasn't any evidence of that, like he couldn't see a bruise on his face yet, so we don't know about that either. But look, here's his lawyer saying, yes, he definitely did have a gun. And the cops come in and they're like, oh, we didn't find one on his person. Yeah, they called 911 and he knew you were coming. I mean, I know he's not the brightest bulb there is, right? But you would think that he would put the gun away before the cops arrived, which he did. And they're like, well, golly gee, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. Off you go again. Now, look, I feel for the cops here because Shellie Zimmerman changed her story. And without Shellie Zimmerman's testimony, it is incredibly hard to prove. I mean, they're doing, I imagine, I hope, yeoman's work in trying to find the video from that broken iPad, and they say there might be video from security cameras from outside the house. Yes. That would be interesting to see if they can find that. But look, the cops are in a tough spot here.
Yeah, and so let me jump in with that a little bit. Even if Shellie Zimmerman decides that she doesn't want to press charges against him, there is a possibility that prosecutors could obtain footage that proves that domestic violence did occur. And in that case, prosecutors can go after him even without the consent of Shellie Zimmerman. Who's to say if that's going to happen? Who's to say that any of this actually occurred in the first place? You have to actually obtain the information and the footage to see what really happened, on Monday.
Yeah. And look, but this guy, man, one break after another, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So he'd been pulled over for speeding a couple of times recently. In one of the times he got pulled over, he apparently has a gun in the glove compartment. The cop doesn't, he sees the cop and sees the gun and is nonplussed by it. He's like, oh, okay. He says to him, quote, just take it easy. Go ahead and shut your glove compartment. Don't play with your firearm. Now, have you ever been pulled over by a cop and you're like playing around with your gun and the cop's like, nah, just don't play with your gun, put it away. JR, how quickly would you have been shot? Okay, I mean, seriously, anybody but George Zimmerman. I mean, white, black, it is. Like, if I'm pulled over, even if he thinks like I'm a rich Persian from Beverly Hills or something, I don't know, right? And I'm like, hey, hold on, copper. And I'm playing around with a gun in my glove compartment. They're not going to be politely telling me to put the gun away.
Let's just remember the story of the guy in front of his house who was just getting in and out of his car. No gun, no weapon, no nothing, but got shot.
That was like a 61-year-old black guy, right? In his own driveway, and he was reaching into his car. Reaching into his car in his own driveway, in his own car. They're like, yeah, good enough, and they shot him. Okay, Zimmerman's like, playing around with a gun, and then in this case, he smashes the iPad. He's got a gun, but he puts it away before the cops come, according to his own lawyer, etc. Free to go, free to go, free to go. Who gave this guy like a stack of Monopoly cards, get out of jail free card, that he just can't run out of?